My name is Sharon Nakandha. I'm a Ugandan. I work with the Open Society Justice Initiative as an International Justice Fellow. I think the best thing about conferences of this nature is bringing together African expertise on international justice. I think at the moment what is lacking in this field is that we do not have enough African voices at the international level speaking about issues, and yet, as we all know, the ICC largely its work is on the African continent. So it's good to sit around the table with colleagues from African countries to discuss the issues that affect our people. So in my country, I previously worked with Avocats Sans Frontières, and part of my work involved public outreach meetings with communities. And now at OSJI, this is also partly a learning experience, and we have a platform called International Justice Monitor, which is a website that we use for our advocacy campaigns on the ICC. So we have developed this website where we write commentaries and also analyze IJ experiences in different parts of the world. This Open Society Justice Initiative Trial Monitor website, which we use for our advocacy campaigns on the ICC, analyze latest happenings in this field and also trial processes. To that extent, we are a victim-centered organization, so a lot of the work that we do is meant to assist victims in different parts of the country. So for example, when we write about trial processes, we're interested in knowing how these affect the local persons. So we aspire for a process where we look at victims' voices and elevate them to that level so that international actors elsewhere are able to analyze and also be informed by what's going on the ground. So currently, Uganda is at a stage where we're developing a transitional justice policy, which is currently before government, before our cabinet. So at the moment, the main challenge that we face is trying to see how to engage victims in these processes. So a lot of the time, many of these are very elitist debates. So we want to find ways of involving victims and making sure that what they feel and what they want is actually reflected in the policy documents that we are developing. So mainly we want victim participation at a really high level. So because we are a common law country, Uganda is a common law country jurisdiction, so we do not have space for victims to participate in the legal process very actively. And I think that remains a challenge, but then at the same time we wonder how we should deal with it. So I think right now what we are left with is trying to find a way, okay, the legal process may not allow their participation in the trials, but at least to find ways of engaging them through outreach sessions, through communication, making sure that they have materials on the trials that are going on. So as trial monitors, that is also an aspect that we cover, just to ensure that feedback with victims. So I think currently there are so many victims who are interested in these processes. They love the idea of the ICC. They are willing to support it. They are willing to also support national processes for accountability, but I think their major need right now is victim assistance. That is what they need. So it's not enough for us to only talk about accountability and say, oh, this is what the process is about. Someone will be tried. I think at the end of the day, if somebody is a victim and they have a broken arm from the conflict, what they want is to be able to walk, to be able to run, to be able to join their families in so many ways. So it goes beyond merely giving them information, but also ensuring that we address their actual physical needs, their psychosocial, give them psychosocial support as well. No, I think we have to understand that the International Criminal Court differs from the national mechanisms. So for example, for a long time in Uganda we had the trial of the first LRA commander brought before the court stalled because of an amnesty law. Those are not the same challenges that the ICC has to contend with. So we're dealing with courts at different stages. One of them has a lot of international exposure, lots of resources at its disposal, and then you have national courts that are already it's too early to start judging them harshly because international justice is a relatively new field. So we have challenges of judges who actually don't really understand these concepts. It's a different arena. So it's different stages of growth, and we need to take these differences into account. So I would not in any way say that the challenges of the ICC are impacted by the challenges of national mechanisms. These are two completely different institutions. Yes, currently, like I mentioned before, we have the transitional justice policy, which is it's quite comprehensive. So within it, we have provision for prosecutions, we have amnesties, we have truth-telling processes. We also have reparation programs that have been included in this policy. But I think what is lacking at the moment, and which we intend to see once this policy is finalized and brought before the people, is how these different mechanisms will work. Because as we know, they deal with different issues. So for example, if you're going to prosecute someone, then you have to know, so do we prosecute the highest level commanders? And then who do we grant amnesties? And then how do we fuse prosecution processes with truth-telling? So they each have different purposes. So it remains to be seen how we can put these different mechanisms together to work for the good of the victims, who are the most important stakeholders in these processes. I think the lack of citizen trust in the national processes is really related to the failure of national judicial processes, the disappointment that people have. So for example, I know a couple of people who have said, if we have failed to deal with cases like corruption, which are relatively simple, how can we think that we can address international justice issues? These are human rights mass violations that require a different set of skills, and then you need a judiciary that's actually ready and competent to try those kinds of cases. So again, the citizens' expectations in the process is largely because of what has failed in other trial stages. Yes, because I do think so to a certain extent, because I have friends who have asked me, how could the ICC take 9 years to get one suspect? And yes, I may explain to them that the ICC does not have the mandate to go around arresting people, that it relies on cooperation. But again, they ask 9 years, all this investment in a process that can take 9 years to yield justice. So it's questions like that. It's why is the process too long? It's things like, why is the court so far away from the people it intends to benefit? So it's issues like that that make people question, why the ICC? Why should we resort to that if it has the same challenges or even more challenges than our national systems? So if you're asking whether initiatives have been taken, let's say on the part of the government, to create some sort of confidence in the ICC, I would say no, to the extent that we have our president who is always going around the globe bad-mouthing the ICC. So again, the state does not help in such matters. But then we also have, to a certain extent, we have the role of civil society actors who have been at the helm of actually supporting processes for righting mass human rights violations. For example, we have civil society actors who have gone out of their way to support the transitional justice process. We have civil society actors who have actually gone out of their way to also support the ICC and say, you may have challenges, but we are willing to work with you if you can take into account the interests of victims. So yes, we have actors, we have citizens, we have civil society actors who are all looking at finding ways of ensuring that people have confidence in international justice processes. Here is the thing, I am African and I want to have confidence in our own processes. I think it's always best if we can deal with the issues ourselves because we understand the source of conflict. We understand so many things. This court, yes, it will definitely face the same challenges as the ICC because it's also not based in every situation country. I want to be that hopeful. But I also know that we are contending with different challenges. We have the challenge of politics. If we have a clause that says that that accords immunity to everyone as long as you're holding office, then we are going back to the same challenges that we have in our national systems, where we can't try people for mass human rights violations. But again, I would not say it will not succeed. I don't want to completely rule it out, but I also know that there are challenges that we shall definitely have to address.
Udafia za haki